Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you will receive alerts when there are new episodes. Go get it.
This what I tell 'em. Look, I've been grinding for so long, I wake up and chase my goals. I go out and I go get it. How to code, that's all I know. I don't succeed, then I don't breathe. Success, what does it mean? If I conquer all my goals, then I'm living out my dream. Dig deep, go out and get it. Success Chronicles. Compete until it's finished. Success Chronicles. Go take care of your business. Success Chronicles. It's deeper than just winning. Success Chronicles.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chip Baker coming to you with another episode of the Success Chronicles. And really excited about this one today to have my guy, Alex Demczak, on with us. A great guy doing some great things. And so first off, Alex, man, thanks so much for taking the time to interview with the Success Chronicles. Grateful that we finally got an opportunity to connect, man.
Chip, thanks for having me. I've heard amazing things about you from multiple people, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on your show. That's legit. And I've seen you all over on social media making an impact. So yeah, man, the honor is mine, and it's great to be here to talk today with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, let's dive into it. If you don't mind sharing with the audience, your life story and kind of track that story to now so people will know who you are and what it is you do.
Yeah. So going back to, middle school and high school days, I was a sports fanatic, like probably many listeners. I loved any type of sports. And in the back of my mind, I always wanted to play in college. And so that was something that I kind of set my dreams on, tried to discipline myself to put myself in a position to play college athletics. And I did get the chance. I grew up in an awesome, very supportive household, my parents and awesome family, and just supported any dream that I ever wanted to try. And so football was that thing. And so I pursued it, and I walked on at University of Missouri. And it was around the time, well, if you're around A&M, you're probably an Aggie fan, but we, over here where I live in Columbia, we're obviously Mizzou fans, but so we'll have to see when we play each other this year how it goes. But
yes.
But yeah, so I walk on at Mizzou. It's a gre're experience. We were transitioning from the Big 12 to the SEC, and honestly, it's probably like you or some of your listeners, when you're in the zone, when you feel like you're in kind of your flow, you're doing what you love to do, life is good. And that was my freshman and sophomore year. I was a walk-on quarterback. And, as a walk-on, you have to kind of earn it every day. Like tomorrow's not guaranteed. And going into my junior season, you have this position coach like meeting every single year with so for me, it was my quarterback's coach and the recruiting assistant. And so I walk into this meeting, and usually it was a very chill meeting for the most part. And so I walk in and I sit down, and one of these coaches, he looks across table and he says, "Alex, I want to shoot you straight. We've brought someone in actually from Texas to take your spot. We've over scholarshiped at quarterback. We don't have room for you." And for me at that point in my life, football was my identity. I was Alex, the quarterback, Alex, the football player. At least that's how I viewed myself. That's what I did. That's who I was. And so in like the blink of an eye, he's telling me this, and it just crushed me. And he said, "So you have two options. Option number one is you're cut, like it was a total business transaction. And option number two is you can stay on the team as this volunteer assistant coach, no pay, none of that." And he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you have to decide in this meeting what you want to do." And so just imagine, my mind's racing. I put my life and soul into this thing that I loved and I thought I was decent at. And here I have to make this decision. So my mind's racing. I didn't know really even what to say, but I'm like, the season's coming up. I'm like, I guess I'll be this assistant coach, whatever that even means, And so I remember walking out of that meeting room, and I get in my truck and just park it. And I remember just crying and being so humiliated. Here I am, a guy that I feel like I let down so many people who've supported me. And so the first practice was a few days after that. And I had the weekend to kind of sulk in my thoughts. And so I show up to the first practice. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm going to have a big coaching role. Maybe they're going to put me up in the press box. I'll call plays. I'll make a big impact. This is what I'm thinking as a junior in college, right? And so I walk into this first meeting, this first practice, and one of the coaches says, "Hey, Alex, come here. I want to show you what your job's going to be." And I'm like, sweet, give me that free Mizzou gear, hook me up. And so I walk in, and this dude literally hands me this flag. He's like, "So Alex, in practice, we need to work on our discipline. And so your job during practice is when someone jumps off sides, you need to take this flag and throw it on the ground." And I was like, okay, I guess I can handle that. I was like, so what part of practice? Like the beginning, the middle? He's like, what part of practice? He's like, we need you to do this for the entire practice and the entire season.
Wow.
And I'm sitting, and I'm not exaggerating. And I'm sitting there going like, are you kidding me? Like, this is the biggest demotion of my life. And so for the sake of time, the entire junior season was me throwing the flag, me printing off copies for the coaches, me doing all the small things that were in a lot of ways humiliating while my buddies were living out their dream on the field. And that grew me. That year grew me. I had to now, instead of try to elevate myself, I had to make others successful, and I had to make other quarterbacks who even took my spot. I had to say, man, how can I make them look better? Because now I'm this assistant quarterbacks coach. And during that year, I started working on my first book, just like how you have many books. And honestly, the humility of being brought low connected me with so many guys who I'm now to this day great friends with. And so what I had to learn, and I think just to kick us off here today, the lesson I had to learn was that leadership requires no title. Like doing the small things with excellence. It doesn't matter if you're the starting quarterback or you're cut like I was. Leadership requires no title. And I continued to work out hard that entire junior season, hoping to get back on the team my senior year. Eventually, I did get back my senior year as a quarterback. We went to the Citrus Bowl. It was a great experience. But the reason I share that with you on your podcast today, Chip, is that I think when I look back, I actually, in some ways, made a bigger impact the year that I felt like I had no title, I wasn't the starting quarterback, but the people on that team that saw me stick with it, not that I did it perfectly, but the people that I resonated with, I connected with, those are the same people that today I still talk with, and they just have this respect. And again, I didn't do it perfectly. It was a very, very hard year, but I think when we speak to the excellence, doing the small things over time, I'm so grateful that happened, because honestly, I don't know if we'd be on this podcast right now if I wasn't humiliated and went through that experience in my life. So yeah, man, that's a little bit about my story. Live in Columbia, Missouri now, married to my wife. And then we have a 1.5-year-old daughter named Kennedy. My wife's name is Erin. I got to give her a shout out, but life is good, man. And just so grateful to be with you today.
Just hearing you talk about this story, it made me reflect on lots. I had a similar, and I'll just share this with you. When even before we got on and following you and, us knowing similar people, me following your story, hearing that, man, I had a similar something happen to me, not quite, but similar, but humiliating when you look at it. But, it just made me think about, some of the most humiliating things that happen to us give us the most growth, right? And we just have to be mature enough to be in the moment and understand, why is this happening for me? Not why is this happening to me, but why is this happening for me? And same, just like you said, for the guys, much respect, same thing. And you would have never known it at the moment. You just thinking, man, I'm horrible.
Yeah, right.
Man, I'm not even good enough they got me running the flag every day. Oh yeah. Come on, man.
Right. Well, what you just said, man, about why is this happening for me, like that,
Yeah.
I mean, that simple mind shift could be life-changing for someone, what you just said. And it's like, here's the crazy thing, Chip, like at the time, I didn't know this, but now when I, just like you, when I go around and I speak to organizations, I mean, now when I go speak to a group of athletes and I have the chance to talk with maybe a student athlete after, after my talk, that maybe, let's say he broke, he tore his ACL or he's out for the season. I have this newfound compassion almost for a guy like that, where I can speak into his life and say, listen, in a way, I've been there, and here's how I got through. And so I wouldn't have had that, to your point, I wouldn't have had that perspective if I wouldn't have been brought low in that way. And so, man, how you said that retweet to what you just said. That was great. So,
I love it, man. Hey, and since we're down south, guys, I want to hit you with this one too. Just hearing your story of man, them doing that to you, like those grandma, baby, bless your heart, baby. bless your heart. I just, you hate that those things happen, but then on the other side, that there's maximum growth if, like you said, you have those simple mindset shifts. But then also, here's the bigger picture too: is, Alex, there's nothing in your life ever that you will ever face that will be tougher to you than that situation. You know, and that's what it's been to me in my life, and I've been able to like reflect on, oh, this is nothing. You know, like I was broken. I was like Humpty Dumpty, like all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Chip Baker back together again, right? I was broken, man, and just, you know, I just like as you were telling your story, I just felt the hurt all over again, because I know like it just breaks you. Like when you've committed, like the commitment, like, bro, you're a quarterback. Oh no, bro. Like you're committed to being a quarterback. Like you don't just show up and no. You have to put the extra work in to be the dude quarterback. And so, man, right. I commend you for bouncing back. I commend you for sticking it out. And I commend you for the lessons that you share, your life lessons that you are sharing and will continue to share with people, because it's a blessing. Just so you know, it's a blessing to me. It's a blessing to a lot of people. And so, man, I'm so happy for you, and I wish you the best of luck with everything, my man.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate that affirmation coming from you, who you've achieved these high levels of success. So I really appreciate you saying that.
Yes, sir. Well, what are 3 things you've accomplished in your life that you're proud of?
Man, there's a lot of ways I could go with that question, but I would say, you know, being married to my wife and having our first daughter, I guess that would be 2 things. I don't know. You can put them as one. That's just been some great, awesome experiences. Being a dad for the first time is pretty unbelievable. My faith is a big part of my life, and as a Christian, and so that kind of guides what I do and how I do it. And again, not just like everyone else, not perfect, but just know that you know, God loves me, and I don't have to have my performance tied up in it. And how do I, you know, my identity isn't in those things, and it's in something greater. And so that's really encouraging. And I would say, man, that's been a win. The best decision I've ever made was you know, following the Lord with my life. And so I guess that's 3, but I mean, I'm sure there's other sports ones that I'm leaving out, but honestly, those aren't as important as the things I just mentioned. So those are a few highlights. And then I will say this one, I guess, on a work related note, maybe if there's someone out there listening that's kind of thinking about what they want to do next. For the last 5 years, I was in corporate America in sales and had a very comfortable job, was being successful. And I'd been building up this speaking business on the side. I was kind of as a side hustle doing it. And last September, I started getting like this racing heartbeat, kind of like this anxiety. And I've never had anything like this before. And so I go into the doctor, they do an EKG, and they're like, hey, everything looks good, you're fine. But they're like, what are you doing for work? And I said the, you know, 7 things I was trying to juggle all at once. And they were like, that's your problem. They're like, this is a stress induced thing. And they're like, if you scale down, you're going to get some margin back in your life. And so that was last September. And I'd been feeling for a long time, like, you know what, if I want to pursue this speaking thing, I need to go all in at some point. And that was in September. And so my wife and I started talking and praying. I mean, we had a 1-year-old daughter. My wife stays at home. And so from the world standards, like there would never be a worse time to quit my full-time job and go all in. Right. But we just felt like, you know, God was leading us that way. And I think it just speaks to also for 4 or 5 years on the side, I was grinding. I was doing this side hustle that I really was passionate about. I'm like, man, I would love to do this someday with my life, similar to what you do, like someone like Jon Gordon. That's the type of work I want to do. And so we took a leap of faith. I talked with 12 different people in my life, Jon Gordon being one of them, people in the mortgage industry where I was working, people in full-time speakers. And I just asked them, I said, hey, when you look at me, and this is where I want to go all in as a speaker and an author. And, you know, here are my numbers. I was really vulnerable. I was like, hey, what are your thoughts? What are your downsides? And 12 out of 12 people in my life, people that I knew cared about me, who I knew would tell me the truth, they were like, Alex, you need to go for it. And so December 21st, right before Christmas, I walked out of an awesome company, Veterans United Home Loans, for the last time. And they were such a great company. So it was nothing to do with them. It was simply, it just wasn't the best fit for me. And so I walked out, I quit, and did it the right way, and just still have so many friends at that organization. But I went all in on what I love doing, and that's writing and speaking. And then obviously just came out with The Sale with Jon Gordon, and that's been such a fun book to travel all over the country and speak about. And then last year started a company called writemybooks.com, where we help people write and publish their books. So sorry if that was a long-winded answer. But yeah, I guess this is month 6 or 7 of me being full, all in as an entrepreneur. I hope I never have to go back to corporate. But I learned a ton of lessons there as well that helped me transition to this stage of being an entrepreneur. And it's fun. It's challenging, but it's like a different type of stress. It's a stress that I enjoy rather than a stress where I'm like banging my head against a wall. So truly blessed, man. And those are just a few things lately that have been huge things that I'm just, I guess, proud of in my life.
So good. So good. I I love that. Love hearing your journey. I love hearing you talk about the things that you're proud of. Just hearing that, I would consider that to be hugely successful. So let's hit on success. What is your definition of success?
Yes, that's a great question. And I actually had a mentor named Jon Gordon, who, what's cool is on my podcast, the Alex Demczak Leadership Podcast, I had him on, and he actually was diagnosed with cancer. And so we knew that kind of time was running out. And I said, John, what do you want people to say at your funeral? And he was a very athletic guy, ran marathons. I mean, just a mentor, a pastor, from just an awesome guy, family guy. And he said, Alex, the good thing is I've answered this question 20 years ago. He said, and he was only in his 50s when he passed away. And he said, my answer is this: when I look back, and what I want people to say at my funeral is, his name was John. He said, I want people to say that they knew that John loved God and he loved me. And what's really cool about that at his funeral, it was actually, unfortunately, a lot of it was virtual because of COVID. And so I, wish a lot of people could have been there, but it was a lot of people tuned in virtually and honored his life. But it was just very cool to hear his family that got up and spoke and almost said that verbatim thing. And so that's a podcast that I'll always cherish, because I still have it obviously on anywhere podcasts are. It's online. But I'm going to steal his answer just in honor of him, because truly for me, that at the end of the day, that is success. And all these other things, Wall Street Journal bestseller, doing all these other things, those fade away. Those are in some ways meaningless compared to, knowing that God, I was loved by God. I love God, and I loved other people, and tried to make this a better place. So for me, man, that's it. And I think when you have this, maybe for people that are listening that aren't people of faith, that's totally fine. For you, it's for everyone. I think we have to find this thing that's bigger than ourselves and say, man, how can I? Because when you have this long-term view, then it frames your day-to-day. And I think for me, again, not perfect, but when I have this overarching view of who I want to become, it definitely changed the way I make decisions on the daily.
So good, man. So good. Well, I was going to say now to the fun part, but it's all been fun for me, just so you know. But I guess the funner part now. So what I want to do, Alex, man, is just throw out 3 words, based off of our interview conversation. There's some things that have come up for me. I just want to throw these words or phrases out to you. And when I do that, I just want you to talk about what comes to mind or what comes to heart for you when you hear these words or phrases. You good with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the first one is identity.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me as a Christian, my identity is in Christ. And I think when I go back to that story I told of football was my identity, like that is anything that is like temporary or anything that can be taken away, that's a pretty not a great identity. That's not a great plan to have your identity based in those things, because as you heard my story, it was taken away like this. And just like anything, whether it's, even money, I think we have to guard ourselves against that. Like, hey, I'm going to put my identity wrapped up in my success financially. It's like, okay, well, have you seen the stock market lately? Have you seen this crazy housing market? I mean, we could be facing a recession. Who knows? And if you put your hope in those things, and those can very easily fade away.
So good, man. All right. The next one is the sale.
No, thanks for teeing that up. So my book with Jon Gordon, who you're good friends with John, and our book came out April 26th. And so we've been at it for a while now with the book launch. It's super exciting. Yeah, the sale is just like many of your listeners probably know, Jon Gordon has 25 books, many of them bestsellers. And the sale was a book that we wrote, co-authors together. And the whole concept of the book is about character and integrity. And we really felt like in today's society, the conversation it's kind of integrity is kind of left out in some ways, because these, whether it's an organization that maybe a CEO who makes a decision that causes a huge moral failure that has a ripple effect on so many people's lives, or maybe it's someone making a decision behind closed doors that really affects people negatively. We're saying, what would it look like to have high levels of success, but then do it with integrity and do it in a way in which you look back on your life and you're proud of how you did it. And so the story of the book, it's a captivating story with a few twists and turns along the way, but it's essentially about a guy named Matt who is achieving success at a high level, but he's doing it at a cost. He's trying to reach these financial goals, do all these things, but his own wife, Kendra, says, hey, if you don't change, like, we're getting a divorce. I didn't sign up for this. And so Matt ends up meeting this mentor named Randy, who teaches him these principles and laws about integrity. I can't tell your listeners the ending of the story. They'll have to read it. They'll have to go check it out. But it's really cool to see the transformation of the main character. And we tried to write the book in a way where all of us could relate to Matt, who's the main character. And that's some awesome feedback we've been receiving. Is obviously people finished the book and loved it, but hey, I really resonated with some of this stuff and it made me be introspective. And I think for us, that's a huge win. We didn't just write this for us. It's message is way bigger than us. It's how can people take it back to their families, their teams, and truly grow from it.
Good stuff. Well, the last one, Alex, I'm gonna pause a little bit before I give you this one because it's a good one. But the last one is legacy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and I think it's kind of tied into the first answer with about John Draghi, and just because when I think about his legacy and the way that he led, the way that he eventually he passed away, but the life he lived, I mean, he left an amazing legacy. And I think so many of us are consumed with the day to day, like, what are my tasks today? What do I have to do? And we are so consumed with what we do rather than who we're becoming in the process. And I think a lot of times it takes like a tragedy or something really bad happening for everyone to pause. You think back to 9/11, right? When 9/11 happened, that the month after, and even I think a few months after, church attendance across the nation was at record highs. I mean, everyone, people who were saying, I don't even believe in God, they're like, I'm going to church, because I think deep down they did believe in God, but maybe they didn't want to admit it. And so, record church attendance, but then after a while that fades away. And so I think for people listening, it's saying, and for my legacy, knowing that I want to maximize my potential with the gifts that I've been given to give God glory. I mean, that's what I want my life to be about, and raise a family and honor God with what I've been given. But I think for people carving out their own legacy, it's like, yeah, what are you thinking about just right here, right now, which is fun, which is good. You have to do the micro, but on the higher level. And what are you doing to think forward into the future? Like, when you see yourself 20 years from now, and what do you want to be able to say about the last 20 years that you've spent, and it's, I was saying that during COVID, when the pandemic was hitting, it's like, how do you want to look back on this time? Do you want to know that you just got better or worse? I mean, the reality is, we know you never stay the same. You get better or worse. And so I think when it comes to your legacy, I think you have to be intentional. You have to carve out time and say, what do I want? What's bigger than me? That'll make me proud when I'm someday when we pass away, because we all do. Yeah. Just like my mentor Jon Draghi, he knew his answer to that question 20 before he did pass away, and then he could live intentionally and live in a way that allowed him to live that legacy.
So good. Well, man, before we get off, I'd love for you to share with the audience where they can follow you, check you out, and show you some love with all of the amazing things you have going on.
I appreciate that. Yeah, my social media is just my name, Alex Demczak, and my company, Write My Books, is it's actually, our company name is Streamline Books, but our website is writemybooks.com, and we actually give a discount to any of Chip's listeners who we give you a discount on the book process, just for being, because Chip's awesome. We love to collaborate with Chip. And then my website is just alexspeaking.com. You can find out more about the book at thesalebook.com. So I really appreciate the time, Chip. And yeah, man, I've just been hearing great things about you. I know we're going to connect in person at some point when our schedules align, but man, this has been so cool to kind of vibe with you on here.
Yeah, Alex, man, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm glad that we were able to make it happen. Truly appreciate it. And again, my man, I wish you continued success.
You as well, man. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you guys for checking out this episode. We'll see you next time. God bless. Go get it.